What's up, guys? Dan here. I'm here to bring the second episode for my podcast. Few things before we start the episode. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that I'm the first Final Fantasy 11 podcast because I'm clearly not. I just meant to say it was my first ever podcast. And another thing is there was already a Voices of Vana deal. So we changed our name to Vana Talk. I'm sorry about that. I messed up. Didn't do my proper research. But yeah, we changed our name to Vana Talk. Another thing is, if you guys want me to talk about certain topics for the future episodes or get a certain guest in, comment down below and just let me know. But yeah, we had our guest Selindrile for the second episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'll see you guys later. Peace. All right, well, here we are, episode 2 of the podcast. Welcome everybody. Welcome Selindrile.
Nice
You
to be here.
guys
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man, absolutely. If you guys don't know, Selindrile is the gear swap guru. He has a lot of other add-ons, I believe he wrote. But yeah, I'm so happy to have you here, Selindrile. Do you prefer me calling you Selindrile or Kales? Because I know you're
Sel, Kale. I respond to pretty much anything, honestly.
Okay.
Not a big
Absolutely. But yeah, we have the gear swap guru in house. Super excited. But let's get to learn a little bit more about Selindrile. So, Sel, what got you into Final Fantasy 11? When's the first time you actually played the game?
Actually, see, I actually always played Final Fantasy in general. Like, I loved 3, of course, which is 6, and 2, which was our the real 4. For since I got my hands on them, but I never thought I'd like an MMO version. I think it was Asian who was saying this also, but I tried EverQuest and I could not, like, I hated it. Not only did I have dial up, it just was not the game for me. I thought I would never like MMOs. But then a friend of mine had it, and I sat there over his shoulder watching him play it. And then when he went to bed that night, we were over at a friend's who was it was like a LAN party, and we all brought our computer over. And when he went to bed, I played on his computer, and I ended up playing all night on his character. And so I was like, I'm getting this. And he got it right at release. And
Gotcha.
so I had it. I got it very quickly after that, like 2 weeks after that. They didn't have it in my local store, so I had to make a trip to Houston to get it. Came home, was all excited to play. It took me a week to update because dial-up. So I started playing about approximately a month after US release.
Gotcha. And you've been pretty consistent on playing, right? I mean, I don't know if you've taken a lot of breaks.
I take breaks, but nothing longer than a couple months here and there. Or sometimes I'll log on once a week is like where I am now. Like, I'll rarely log on, but I'm technically still active.
Right. I know pretty recent. You haven't been really playing recently. I mean, I see you on Warframe a lot. But you still go in and update the Luas and the gear swap and all that. So.
And I do play occasionally. It's usually when someone asks me, who's a friend of mine, asks me for help. That's usually the only reason that actually motivates me to get on that, or someone saying, "Hey, fix this in gear swap." One of those two things is what gets me on these days.
Gotcha. So like, okay, so when you're playing on your friend's character, right? Like, what intrigued you? Like, what was the?
Honestly, it was partly how the combat felt so much. It felt turn-based. You know what I mean? Like,
right, one swing, 10 years later, another swing.
Right, it was so slow. I was like, this is almost like turn-based combat, which is one of the reasons I loved the normal XI. I mean, back in those days, I did play first-person shooters and I played tactical combat, and that's about all I played. I say tactical, I should say just like classic tactical RPGs, and that was like the only two things I much played. That's not true. I played some platformers, but not much. I was never like a Mario guy. It was okay, but
right. I mean, obviously, it's crazy. I want to thank you so much, by the way, for the upkeep of the gear swap, and you've been very consistent on it, and even though you're not that active in the game, like, you have such a passion for gear swap and all that. Can you
I
name
truly,
the other add-ons and stuff that you actually made as well,
there's only
besides yours?
three that I have that I claim to have written from scratch. Well, I say scratch, but Roller, which is just automates Corsair rolls.
Right.
Um, what's it called? What's the other? Oh my gosh, reading my own add-on names. I found out I wrote it. Oh, it's Repeater. Yeah, I found out that there's actually basically another thing that already did this, but I didn't know about this when I wrote it, called
Do
Do Stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know that it existed until after I wrote Repeater. I used to use scripts to like do loops, automated things, but I would always have crashes on Windower. So I wrote Repeater as a way to not have to use Windower scripts, which always crash. Um,
Right.
and then that last one, the only one I'm actually proud of, other than my gear swaps, is called Request, and I don't think there's anything like it out there. It essentially lets you do a more plain English version of send, and it works on any computer, like as in you set it up and then anyone can tell you to do stuff.
Right. 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 So, for example, if I have my friend's mule that's playing out in Japan, for example, on White Mage, and I say, so and so blind me, that character
Right.
will cast blind on.
That's
So,
that's the intent.
how hard was creating that add-on?
That one was really rough. Mostly, believe it or not, 90% of the problem was in the what's the parser, like what the thing that is meant to capture the text that is incoming and like separate it into variables, and like that was the real hard part. I didn't write I didn't actually couldn't really figure out what's it called, the code for that. I had a friend help me with it who's better with what is it called? It's certain terminology. I can't remember what the word is, but yeah, it's the code that is what is interpreting the incoming text.
Right. 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 How long did that take you to make the request add-on?
Oh, it actually wasn't that long. It took only about 3 weeks. Like most of it was getting the parser down, and then after that, it was actually pretty straightforward. That one's been a lot less work for a really cool, unique add-on as opposed to Gear Swap, which is a ton of work.
Right. 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 Um, so going on to Gear Swap, well, your character has all jobs 99. You're all mastered on every job. What did you master all of your jobs for your gear swap itself? Because I guess like sometimes you get more traits and stuff like that, or what's the reasoning behind you mastering all of your jobs?
Well, this is actually kind of ties into. I imagine you'll want to hear it. It's
Yeah.
when I first started playing the game,
Hmm.
I initially like looked online. I read that Brady Games guide and believed it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a ninja. They sound like a really good DPS. Ninja sub Sam. That's gonna be good. I mean, store TP plus, and I get dual wield, which means I attack real fast. I mean, store TP plus 50. That means I'm gonna get 50 TP every time I swing. That's how that works. So I was like, I'm gonna be weapon skilling, because remember, 50 was half of what you needed to weapon skill.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
I was like, this is gonna be great, because Brady Games explain things terribly. So I got to the dunes finally, and I saw a Japanese ninja there,
Right.
and he was doing single digit damage, and I was like, oh god, I don't think ninja's a DPS. This is not right. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board. So I did a lot of googling and found out Knit Dragoon was actually where it was at, like, because whenever you weapon skilled, you got 50 TP, because store TP didn't work like Brady Games Guide said it does. That was percentage based.
Right, right, right.
So the Dragoons were using Penethrust at the time and getting 50 TP back, which means you halfway to the next weapon skill already.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, Dragoon it is. I got Dragoon up to like 50, and then they nerfed the TP changes. They said to where multi attacks on weapon skills now only give 1 TP past,
Right.
and I was like, oh god, they nerfed my whole point of being this class. What do I do now? So I was like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna get all jobs to 37. That way I can have everything as a sub job,
Okay.
and then we'll see what I like. And I eventually fell in love with Sam at that point.
Mm-hmm. Best job, by
And
the way.
but ever since I did that, ever since I got all jobs to 37, I've just kind of wanted to play and learn everything, and that's why I did it. And it's why I have gear swaps for every job. That's I mean, yes, they each motivated me back and forth. Like, I can make a better gear swap if I understand the job. I can play the job better if I have the gear swap. But you can't really say that. I think the first motivation was just to have all things from what came from that initial playing all them to 37.
Right. It was just a I guess a domino effect as the game progressed and you progressed in the game. Like,
Yeah, I just wanted to see all sides of the situation to see how every other job, so that I'd know how to work with them in party, and I knew how they played, so forth.
right. I mean, okay. So at this point in age of the game, what is your favorite job? Is it still samurai
It's
or did you? It's blue mage.
ever since Blue came out, I mean, I still love Sam. It's still my second favorite for sure. But ever since Blue came out, I just fell in love with it, and it's definitely my favorite now.
I mean, what makes blue so great for you? Like,
Well, it
what
gets to be a
aspect?
melee, proper melee, and a decent mage at once. Like the others, nobody else gets to say that. Dark is a proper melee, but it's
It's
mage
trash.
and is yeah, exactly. And there's no one else who can do that. Like everybody either gets one or the other. Blue is the only one who can literally pull both off. And
Right.
even from the beginning, their magic spells like that were quote unquote good. Like things like what's that, mandible bite and frenetic rip and things like that. They were physical damage, but they were actual spells, and they did
Right.
actual damage. And that's I liked being the best of both. I liked being able to heal, but also to melee well, etc., etc.
Right. I mean, dude, um, when I played Blue Mage, so when Autodefense came out, leveled Blue Mage, started learning all the spells, started bringing it to end game, dude. Blue was so sick because you had so much different shit that you could do,
Sneak
and
attack,
yeah,
cannonball
sneak
was the
attack
bomb.
cannonballing was the most fun thing ever. You sit there, you eat a tap taco, you get ready, get some mini.
Cocoon, sneak attack, cannonball. Mm-hmm.
Hell
It
yeah.
hit like a truck. It was great.
I flailed so many fucking worms with that shit. And fighting
Yeah,
Dark Ixion with it too.
I was actually had a pretty lucky thing. Like I wasn't actually in Wabo per se, which was a pretty big group at the time, but
Right.
I had a good friend who was real big up there, and he let me come on. Basically, I always hated like the camping. I hated H&M because I thought camping was bullshit, and being the one group that gets the claim because you were claim botting. Not that I give a crap about the moral aspect. I just think it's bullcrap that they designed it that way in the first place,
Right.
and it's also crap that only like what determined if you got it was who had the best bot or lived closest to the server.
Right.
That's just
Whoever's in Japan is probably gonna get
right.
that hit that package first.
That was crap in my opinion. So I didn't want to do any part of H&M, but because I had friends in Wobble, I would get to go to like Nigel and not Delve. Delve was way later. Einar Jar was the one I was looking for, and I
Right.
was actually the puller on Blue, which was unique.
Right.
I
Right.
would
Right. Right. Right.
I would run around with Cocoon and buffs up and pull a lot of things, and then use the thing that did all the debuff. What was that? What was back in the day? It was not Tenebral Crush. It was the first one. Roar of some Frightful Roar. Was that it?
I don't remember to be honest.
Basically, I would pull. I would Frightful War. The Black Mages would sleep gun, and the melees would kill things one at a time, which was unusual. I don't think anybody other group that I knew of used a blue puller.
Right. Yeah. Shit. I mean, it's crazy. I understand. I understand. Why people really like blue. I feel like people nowadays go with blue because it. I mean, mainly it's like from what I see, it's like, oh, I can power level, I can do all this stuff in solo. Because blue mage is like when you're low manning, when you don't have all the max buffs and stuff like that. Blue mage is a phenomenal DPS,
Mm-hmm.
but once you start adding buffs, your level just starts to kind of, or your DPS just starts to deteriorate
Well, it's a
against
matter
other
of
DPS.
everyone else catches up on terms of your attack. Everyone
Right.
else catches on. So once they normalize the attack, haste, and all the things that the blue has going for it, blue realizes it doesn't have as much self inbuilt triple attack, as many damage dealing traits and things like that as the proper DDs. So yeah, when
Mhm.
that falls off, blue is not great. But blue is always meant to be a jack of all trades, master of none. That
Right.
said, they are the master of one, and that is AoE DPS. Like, it should be Black Mage. Let's be honest.
Mhm.
That's the one place that I don't even think blue needs a nerf. What I think they should do is simply remove the damage reduction on multi-target Black Mage AoE spells,
Mhm.
and Black Mage could be king there, and it should be.
Mhm. Gotcha. Gotcha. I mean, if you were able to change one thing about blue at this point of the game, what would you want to change?
That's tough. I would probably try to find a way to make them be able to deal damage in high buff situations, but that's hard to do that without completely breaking their normal, which is already pretty broken.
Right.
I I guess my answer would be to allow them to use more gear. Like, that's the way they've kept blue down in recent history because it's been so popular. They just kind of left them off the majority of good gear.
Right. I mean, they blue mages can wear light armor, and I mean, yeah, blue mage is definitely restricted, especially in the past couple patches, um where like superior 5 came out. I still think the neck plus 2 is pretty good for CDC, and
It is.
I mean
I
it's
agree.
best in slot.
It is
I,
good.
I think it's best in slot for TP and
It is.
CDC.
It's a great piece. That is. But it's the first piece that they've gotten in a while that wasn't that was really like super good for blue melee.
Right, right. I mean, even when Empyreans came out, blue mage, when during the Abyssia area, I believe the Empyrean was just straight garbage.
It wasn't
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
It
Compared to
was.
other classes.
It wasn't great. There were a few it was more of a swap situation as opposed to everybody else who was just full time at all the time. You know.
Right, right. The body would be casting and
I forget exactly now. I think the legs were really good in those days, but
oh
that
yeah,
was years
it
ago
had
now.
blue magic skill
And a
and
flux
strength and
bonus or
shit.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
which was
not that
irrelevant back then, but
not that anybody cared about that.
no.
Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it would. It's like where monk is, right? I feel like it's either you're gonna fucking break the job and that's just gonna be the most OP thing ever, or you're just gonna fucking
No, see, it's not to me. It's not where Monk is because it. I don't actually begrudge them. Where Blue's position. It's because it is really good nowadays in low man, low buff situations, and that's fine. I've
right.
always been okay with different jobs. Some jobs can suck somewhere as long as one job doesn't suck everywhere or is too good everywhere. I'm okay with that. I prefer to think jobs shine in one place and not in others. So I'm okay with the state of blue. I wish it hadn't been by just denying them DPS gear, but I get it. And they're still super good in low buff situations, and they're still the best cleavers around in terms of actual kills per second.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
they're the kings of AoE DPS. Now Black Mage and uh, Beast are more survivable in those situations, but Blue can just crank that damage out unlike the others.
Right. And their survivability at the same time too. Like you get
They're actually the least survivable of those three jobs that I mentioned, but they're more survivable than most other things
right,
are.
right. I mean, you have more survivability than a warrior retaliation fucking fell cleaving for
Yeah,
sure, because you can't obviously
definitely.
you can't heal yourself unless you're like sub dancer.
Not to mention, it's not a complete joke when you sub Red Mage and use Phalanx. I mean, it's pretty atrocious on a warrior.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on from the blue mage. So you know you're the gear swap. I call you the gear swap guru. You know your gear swaps are very intense, right? There's so many gear sets. There's so many functionalities of your gear swap. What actually gave you that drive, or what made you just want to go so super in depth with gear swap?
Honest, it was Mo1010, who most people know as Kinematics, I think these days.
I
Um,
believe so. Yeah.
his his gear swaps have been around forever, and I tried before gear swap I did spellcasts, and I never really got that into it. I used a few people's. I worked on it a little bit myself on it. and I tried a few gear swaps, and I was never that impressed, and I started try to write my own, but I was not like, I don't know, it wasn't. And then I found the kinematics ones, and
Hmm.
um, ironically, after I started using them, I found out that kinematics was in my like periphery. Like he wasn't like in my link shell, but I knew him because he was in a link shell that was also in game. So, and eventually, what's funny is he merged. He like those two link shells kind of merged, and
Right.
we were in the same link shell, and so I finally got to ask him a lot of questions.
Hmm.
And I was just I so loved what all his gear swaps allowed. I fell in love with him, but then when he disappeared off the face of the earth, for a while I was like, oh god, these aren't going to be updated. And at some point I just decided, you know what? I'm going to update these. And then I just kept finding little things and little changes to add, and it's become right now at this point it's probably 1/3 his code, 2/3 my code, but
Right.
it was just his gear swaps are what inspired me to work on them. Like they were amazing bases, just
Right.
amazing.
So he's like your inspiration. That's super dope. And
Yeah, he's a better coder than I'll ever be, that's for sure.
is
But
he even
I
still around?
no, he haven't. Well, at least in the XI community, he hasn't said a word in years and years and years. I imagine he's still alive and living somewhere, but I don't know. Just
Right.
not
Right.
heard
Right.
from him.
Right. So what year was this when you started building your gear swap?
Whenever I mean, I don't know an exact date, and also I couldn't even tell you the exact time where I was like, screw it, he's gone, I'm taking over, and I'm gonna start calling these mine, or like I don't know what exactly it was, but um, it's been a while. It's been at least 6 years or so.
Right. Right. Oh wow, that's a long
I think
time.
so. Yeah.
Holy moly! And it just snowballed, and you just kept on adding stuff, kept on adding stuff, kept on adding stuff.
Yep.
And do you have any plans for gear swap? Like
I have
on
tons of little plans,
mhm.
but there's
Can,
nothing. There's no big overarching thing. The
can we get
only
a little
big
sneak peek?
worry, the only big worry is Windows 5.
Mm.
It's gonna require a huge redesign, from what I can tell on my part, and I'm not even sure if I'm gonna do it. It's because it won't be. Basically, Gear Swap won't be what it was. It's going to be a very different thing. And so instead of being one add-on, Gear Swap, if I were to redesign the whole thing, it would have to be a whole suite of add-ons, which is fine because apparently there are ways you can thread a single line through and make it all work, but it just would be a crap load of work. And
Right, especially for all the jobs and.
right.
So
So
have
I'm not
you?
sure
Go ahead.
about what I'm going to do there. I'm just
Oh,
not sure what I'm going to do there. We'll see.
gotcha. I mean, have you tried Windows 5? Was it an alpha stage right now?
Yeah, I have. It's a bit arcane and awkward to use in its current stage, but I'm sure they're going to improve it. I'm sure there are definitely going to be some upsides of using it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but right now Gear Swap's not even out yet on V5, so it's hard to even tell what I'd have to start doing.
Right. I mean, what's the reasoning on? Do you know their reasoning on even updating Windows to 5 in the first place? Like what?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they wanted to change, and the biggest upside is direct memory access that I've heard.
Mm,
Um, which have you ever heard of a program called Cheat Engine? That's like one of the most well-known things that it gives direct memory access on video games. But Cheetah has it also, and they've been wanting, I guess, to add it. I don't know, but I think I know that in Windows 4 they were hamstrung by some of the people who had the original code. Never wanted the code to be public, and certain things they had stipulations like if you're using my code, you can't do this, that, and so they always wanted to honor that. But
right.
so they wanted to redesign from the ground up so that they could do a lot of things that technically the agreements for that old code wouldn't allow them. This is me kind of speaking out my ass. It's things I've heard, so I don't take this
Right.
as
Right.
100%
Right.
sure. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's what I think, and vaguely things that I've heard about why they're going to do Windows 5. And of course, just they want to streamline a lot of things.
Mhm.
For example, if Gear Swap is tracking a variable, like, and I just recently heard this one from Zeta, if like Gear Swap's tracking a variable and there's something else, some other another add-on that's tracking that same variable, another add-on that's tracking variable, you basically imagine you're having three functions running at the same time, all checking this thing from Windows. Now there's going to be a service, a single thing running in the background that's going to be that if you choose to run, let's say, player, it's going to track all the variables for player. Then any of those add-ons can just ask that one service, say, hey, what's this? As opposed to having it generated 3 different times.
Gotcha. Makes sense. For sure. Yeah. Sorry. I just like got lost in my train of thought. Okay. So we do have some. I don't know if you saw the Final Fantasy 11 news recently.
What news?
With the Red Mage changes coming up.
No, I haven't heard about that.
So they haven't announced anything. It's not concrete, right? So
please tell me we can finally session haste and also temper and such.
So what it looks like, I'm looking at the picture. You know, it's like 3 little pictures. It says February brings along with it a quest to obtain an all-new mount, additional reforging for ambuscade weapons, and adjustments to the Red Mage job. And it looks like the picture is of a Red Mage, and it looks like he's doing a job ability, right? So I don't know. We're gonna go into a little what if it's
mode?
Speculation? Yeah. I mean, what do you think? What do you think SC would do to change, to, I guess, make Red Mage more viable in a 6-man situation?
I was gonna say I agreed with Ejin, who said like Red Mage is not a bad. It's great as that 7th member, but the problem with it is, as you say, at 6. Letting you cast temper on other people would be huge.
Right.
I'm not sure what else. I mean, that and yeah, session haste would be a big deal too.
Right. I mean, I actually talked about this on my stream the other day. I was thinking maybe it looks like maybe they're gonna get a job ability where it acts kind of like Pianissimo on Bard. And when you have that job ability up, you're able to cast certain spells like end spells or temper 2. Like, I mean, that's the biggest thing for Red Mage, right? I feel like I think that's one of the only ways that you can make Red Mage super viable in a 6-man situation. I can't think of any other way unless they gave it more DPS potential. I just realized that Red Mage doesn't have any fencer traits at all.
You know, Red Mage is actually not that bad in terms of DPS.
Yeah,
it's actually in super buff situations ahead of blue, just because temper 2 is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like you're not gonna. Its course doesn't compete with the 2-handers, and it doesn't actually even compete with Dancer or Core. Core is ridiculous in the right situation. Core is the one job that I think might need a nerf on XI. It's fucking broken, but it's so good at so many things.
It's the most broken thing ever.
Yeah, its buffs are like the 2nd best in the game. Its DPS is sometimes the best, sometimes second best. It depends on like your buffs and the target. But
right.
It's ridiculous. Fair enough, Ninja. I don't know what all they would do. I don't think they're gonna make it a DPS monster, because it could be, and I don't think that would be healthy. I think people want debuffs or buffs to matter more in Red Mage. It's like that's what it's always been its main shtick.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, like, they have so many job abilities already, like Saboteur. I don't know what else they can do enfeeble wise.
Honestly, enfeebles don't matter right now. Dia 3 doesn't matter because anything that's important, you're using a Bog Idris frailty, and so your Dia doesn't do shit. Anything like paralyze doesn't matter because mobs are fed TP so fast by melees that if we're using a melee strategy, it doesn't matter. They're just going to weapon skill all the time. Weapon skills can't be paralyzed. Right. Now, if they made paralyze 2 able to affect weapon skills,
ooh, that would be pretty sick.
That would actually be quite sick, and that could be valid. I just thought that just came to mind.
That's actually insane.
Yeah, imagine if paralyze 2 only could paralyze weapon skills. That could be solid.
I was also thinking maybe only red. Actually, no, this is actually a bad idea, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Them being able to cast amnesia. on a mob.
They would have to be very careful with that, but that would be amazing. That would actually pull melee Zerg strats in line with summoner Zerg strats.
Right.
If it lasted like 30 seconds, it would probably might make summoner Zerg obsolete.
I mean, it'll obviously have to take a lot of magic accuracy and all that. I would say 30 seconds, that's still a pretty long time.
That's what I'm saying. It would be too long because it would just completely kill summoners, or it would make it never the best option, I think. Because
right.
you could kill whatever you want in 30 seconds with them not using any abilities. I don't know what the right, like, is it 15 seconds the right amount of time? And obviously requiring a bunch of MAC, maybe that would be reasonable. I don't know.
Right. That's
It's that's one of those that's a powerful thought, and I could see it, but man, that's got to be balanced.
Yeah, you have to balance the fuck out of it. Like
that one walks the fine line between it's too short and it's completely useless, it's too long and it's broken as fuck. What the right number is, I don't know.
I mean, I wish there was still more of a dev team for 11, so with all these ideas, we could voice it out and
you don't think the development bros are doing well enough? I totally agree.
I mean, like, if they had a PTR server, we could test it for them, you know what I mean? But I mean, obviously there's just never gonna be a PTR server for 11, but yeah, like, I don't know. Red Mage is in a weird spot right now.
Yeah,
for me.
It's not in a terrible space, but it's not in a great one either. The problem is it's like the best 7th guy, and that's just not the guy you usually go to.
Right. I mean, especially with the content, for most of the content that you're doing with 6-man.
Right.
Yeah, that's just really unfortunate. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do at Red Mage. I was actually not. I don't know. The last job updates were Dragoon and Dancer. I think it was a pretty decent update for Dragoon and jump timers, whatever. Like, I don't know. I thought that I would have wished.
I can appreciate it, but I'm not a fan of it.
Right. Like, they could have done better.
Dragoon's problem wasn't the DPS, and they actually may have even pushed them too high, in my opinion, in the DPS department. The problem is when Dragoon dies, its death timer is way longer than anybody else. Because when the Wyvern is dead, and that usually happens from you dying, not the Wyvern dying.
Right.
Your job ability is the problem, because you suck ass without a Wyvern up.
Right. That's so 15-minute cooldown?
Yeah, the real answer to me was cutting down Call Wyvern to like a 2-minute and 50-second cooldown or something like that.
Right. I mean, Dragoon has a unique kit. I think it's pretty cool. You get Angon, you get jumps where you shed hate.
Shedding hate is a huge deal, and splitting off all the jump timers is ridiculous for that. It's really strong for them to be able to do TP that fast, weapon skill just as hard as most of the other 200 big boys, and shed hate and have a super jump. Like, that's really strong.
Yeah. I think even Stardrive is strong.
Yeah, Stardrive is really strong. Like I said, the only issue is if you do happen to get dead, you suck ass until you get your Wyvern back, which can be forever.
Yeah, unlucky. And then what was it? So that was the last job update, right? And then the one before that, it was monk accuracy. What do you think about the monk accuracy changes? I read up on it a little bit. They said instead of the 95 accuracy cap, I believe it was, it's now a 99.
I know I'll probably get some disagreement here, but I don't think monk is still in a good place. Like, I don't think the accuracy was ever the problem. I get that it does allow them to use some other gear, which does make some. For example, some people are talking about using the Abyssia 119 body, because we no longer need the better accuracy from other higher end gear, and maybe there'll be a thing that whenever that body gets reforged, when we get Abyssia gear, that could be a solid piece. But I don't know. Monk just doesn't. I mean, its damage is okay. It's in line with most other one-handers, but maybe a little behind. but its weapon skills are a bit weaker. And the big issue with that one is, skill chains are such a big deal in this day and age. Like, they have better white damage than others, as they always have, but
Right.
their weapon skills are a bit lower, which would be fine, except for weapon skills are just like the defining fact of melees in XI these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure what I would give them. I probably would. Yeah, actually, you know what? One of the biggest problems with melees in general, and I think would give it. I think monks would be an interesting way to fix them. Would be to make them the guys who evade all the debuffs. So give them some traits or some magic, some huge magic evasion. Like they can wear the same stuff that Sam can wear with decent magic evasion, but if they do, their DPS suffers a bigger hit because Sam is pretty fucking ridiculous right now.
Right.
But I think if you were going to give a monk a niche, it would be the same thing that Rune Fencer kind of has, in that like they just can evade all the debuffs. I would say make them even better than Rune at it, and then but not as generally tanky. And maybe that could be their shtick. I don't. They need something. They need a shtick.
Right. A niche for them to.
Right. Like even Ninja, like it's not in a great state DPS wise, but Shadows and Megawari make it have a niche. Certain mobs, it's just fucking good on.
Right. I mean, for example, the month when we had the Kutrubs.
Right.
Yeah. Ninja was pretty nutty. I mean, speaking of Ninja, I fucking loved Ninja back in the day.
Me too.
Fucking something Dark Knight and tanking. That shit was pretty cool. I just wish they. I know we're like going from job to job to job right now, but if Ninja was more tanky, I guess, I think I would appreciate it a little bit more, because they do have job abilities. I mean, they're like the hybrid, right? They're like they can DPS and they can tank, but I just wish they had more tanking capabilities.
Ninja's the real hard one to balance, because we know what happens when shadows get too strong. But I think you asked this question of Aegon last time, and I hope I don't know if it's on your list, but the question was, if you could change one thing about XI as a whole, what would it be?
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna ask you that, but yeah.
This really factors into this question though, like what Ninja, where I think and this does this threatens to imbalance Ninja, but it really needs to happen in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They really need to revisit how mobs get and use TP. Like that's a reason why melee Zergs are in a worse state than summoner Zergs at the moment. It's because monsters get fed so much TP. They TP whenever they want. Their TP moves are super annoying and or devastating, and sometimes both. And just there's like that's one of the problems with Monk. Monk and Ninja, one of their benefits is the lower TP given. But that doesn't matter if you have 3 melee. Even if you have 3 monks on it, you still feed it TP so fast in any high buff situations that it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like if you're like low manning, okay, sometimes that the what's it called, Total Blow matters a bit. But anytime that you ramp up the hits to the mob, the TP system becomes a joke, like it is on us. And at this point, do they need to revisit the TP system on us? No, because if they did, people would fucking riot. Like we can't go back to take the weapon skilling once every minute. It's just not gonna happen.
Oh god, I would fucking cry if that was the case.
But monsters probably should cut down on how fast they can weapon skill. Even if it's just like a hard limitation of things can only happen so often, cutting back on what debuffs, like it's overwhelming, and that's why the Zergs that we have, they all focus on like the White Mage 2 hour to get rid of debuffs, or why Rune Fencer or sometimes you just stun the nasty move and you just try to kill it before it does another. It's like why these kind of what people think of as unhealthy strategies are there just because that's all we can do in response to the TP moves. That or cheese it so we're out of the TP moves. Rangers was the old popular one. Now it's summoners, just because summoners don't feed TP.
Right.
And also get to stand out of the range. So double win there.
Yeah, Rangers have always been a strat, I guess, like the fail-safe strat.
They have, and honestly, they're not in a bad place, but anybody who would be motivated to use Rangers, for the most part, is just motivated to use Summoners instead.
Right.
these days.
I mean, it's easier to gear.
Right. It's easier to gear and it's faster.
Right.
Because Rangers, they one still kind of have to watch their DPS, and two, they can't. There's no hateless 2 hour that lets them murder the crap out of the thing in a few seconds.
Right. I mean, speaking of mob TP moves and the annoyance of it, I mean, for the most part, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, there are some really shitty ones. I think the worst one right now is probably when it lands amnesia on you. I think that's the most triggering thing in the world, mainly because you can't get rid of amnesia with erase.
AoE amnesia, so all the paralyzes, all the stuns, all the I mean, some yes you can respond to, and it's just something that the summoners and or rangers don't have to deal with.
Right.
And that's the kind of crap of it. Not to mention just they weren't really designed to use these moves at these frequencies. You know what I mean? Because of how the TP system has gotten out of hand, they're not really designed. They're doing things that they're not really designed to be doing. So we're circumventing them in ways that we're not being designed. We're not really meant to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like an arms race in a way. I think they really should just revisit, maybe give the mobs more defensive TP moves that give them buffs, heal them, that kind of thing. Yes, fights will take longer, but they won't be so bullshitty, you know?
Right. So what do you think about if White Mage got a spell where it gets rid of amnesia?
I think it'd be fine. I don't think there's any harm in that, and it's probably overdue, but I don't think it's necessarily the end all be all. And the same thing, like, I don't think it's necessary if they fix the other thing, that it wouldn't be as big of a problem. It's kind of what they would refer to in Warframe as a band-aid. Like, this kind of fixes the problem, but you should really just stop the bleeding, you know?
Okay.
But yeah, Charmna or Amnesia, they wouldn't be a bad thing, but I would rather them just fix the way that the mobs do TP moves. Maybe if they just did mechanics where like they can only do these TP moves. So for example, they just if they added logic to how often they could do specific TP moves or things like that. I don't know what the exact answer is, but I know it doesn't feel good to play as a melee right now.
It's like I said, it's so triggering when you get amnesia for 40 seconds.
Like it just feels like half the time you don't get to play the game. Because
Absolutely.
You are stunned, paralyzed, some other way debuffed, etc.
Yeah.
I'd much rather the monster go invincible than me not be able to do anything. They're both really annoying and cheesy, but you know what I mean? One is cheesy, I can't do anything. The other one is cheesy, okay, we have to do something else.
Right. Gotcha. I know we're really bouncing around on topics here, but with gear swap and everything, SE really doesn't like the use of third party, I guess, like Windower and whatnot. I mean, obviously they don't really care. They don't ban people for Windower. I mean,
I'm pretty sure that they're at a point where they don't care themselves, but they're bound because of the things that they have said in the past.
Right.
And most importantly, I think they only enforce it when it bothers someone. Like, they don't care if you use Windower, but they care if you're using Windower bothers someone else. That's my personal guess.
Do you think it would be a possibility if they came out with I think I spoke about this last week, but if they came out with like add-ons, do you think it would be a possibility?
I don't think they'll ever do it. I don't know though for sure. I would love it. They actually, I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember them talking about the new UI?
No.
Oh, I guess you were gone then. Okay, they were just before Seekers of Adelan came out. They were supposed to revamp the UI. Supposed to have a whole new one. They've had pictures up for ages. It was available on the test server for a little bit. Like they were supposed to overhaul the UI, and they were actually supposed to release things to the public that were like how to mod the UI so that users could make their own UI. And that was the closest they've ever come to accepting anything third party.
But they didn't
Also,
continue on that, right?
they didn't. They canceled it. They basically said that they were going to do it for a while after Treasures of Adeline, Secret of Adeline came out, but then they eventually just stopped, and they said it was canceled like 2 years later, along with Monstrosity. They just kind of like gave up on it.
Monstrosity.
Yep. And so some people say they'd never do it, and I point at that. And some, like for example, there's a lot of DAP mods out there that people make, and some, like for example, I don't know if anybody's familiar with there's YouTube FFXI and HD, some really gorgeous models and things like that. And there's a good one on FFXIH. Like there's a whole list of models. At any rate, and some people were like, well, why don't they just like, instead of having to put all these resources, they could just take these from the community. They'd be happy to donate them. And some people say, oh, they can't do that. But there's also precedence for that. There was the shield design contest where people submitted designs for shields, and they eventually came into the game, like that globe-looking shield, for example. And so it's possible. I don't know if they'll ever do it, because honestly, it's a lot of work for them. Even though it would be less work than designing it themselves, it's probably more work than just designing one thing every 3 months. You know.
Right. I mean, I think, man, we're at the stage of the game where, you know, the community's still alive and well, and I mean, I think it would be a fucking fantastic idea and like an opportunity for some players to eventually kind of work with SC for like you mentioned, the guy that makes the HD mods. I mean, if they had the add-on thing system, if they gave the add-on thing a chance and put it into the system, like having you on there for like gear swap and shit like that. I would
love if they hired a liaison of some sort that just was a
like
go between third-party tools and stuff. Like some places have done that, and yeah, if they just like could talk to the Windower team and say, okay, these things are acceptable, these things aren't, you know, like just had some rules that were like, this is clearly what we're okay with and what we're not. It'd be helpful, because although a lot of people just aren't willing, like I myself, I couldn't play without gear. I wouldn't play without gear swap. Like I have no interest in this game without gear swap. It's something that should have honestly been in the game as a concept. If we're gonna be able to switch gear, which they didn't expect people to switch gear apparently, but they eventually embraced it, and they came out with like things you would want to switch gear over. But go the logical next step. No, they embraced it far before that. Then the logical next step, I guess, which is equip sets, but it doesn't go far enough. We need to be able to do what gear swap can do.
Right.
So if they would just say these things are okay, these things are not. Like Warframe, for example, and one of the things I love about them, they say we don't care what you use third-party wise. We have one rule, and that's, if you're going to use anything that has automation, you have to be at the keyboard. That's it. We don't care if you quote unquote bot if you're at the keyboard, but you have to be there. You can't keep botting while you're AFK. And if they had some rule like that, that would be really cool. Like
I mean how would you tell if somebody's at their keyboard and they're botting?
When you send them a tell and they don't respond, then they're probably not there.
True. I guess that was actually stupid of me. Anyway. I mean, like, you know, like you said, if Square Enix brought in liaison or a third party group to help them with this, I think it would make the community even bigger and even stronger. I think it would be a huge plus for them.
They had dev AMAs two in the past like 2 years or so. I think I asked them both of them. I asked exactly that. I was saying, is there any possibility that they will in some way acknowledge third-party tools as, you know, being accepted, at least partials, like say what they're okay with, anything like that. And it's been completely ignored both times by them, though other people posted on it. But I don't know that they'll ever acknowledge things like that. But
where do you see the future of 11 going?
I don't see it going anywhere, at least and I mean that both positively and negatively. In the short term, at least, I don't see any big changes, which is a negative, but I also don't see it disappearing. Like, there's so much content for so many people that I think it's going to have a lifespan, as long as they at least keep nominally giving it some changes like they have been.
Right.
I think it's going to go strong. But for people who have played a shitload of 11, eventually, like, it's not like I have nothing to do with 11, for example. I'm not logging on because there's literally nothing for me to do. I'm logging on because I've exhausted. Right. I've logged on because I've exhausted all of the quick avenues of progressing my character. All that's left now are things that take forever, which is fine to do one thing that takes forever, but once you get to a certain point, you're just like, it's so much input to get a small upgrade that it hurts.
Right.
There's a thing we called effort reward ratio, and as you progress in any game, the more you have to put in more effort to get the same amount,
little, right.
smaller and smaller rewards. Right.
Right. And I'm pretty sure 90% of the people that play, or I would even say 99% of the people that play FFXI, everybody gets burned out in one, in one way or another. And for me, for example, I took a lot of breaks in the game. Before I came back last year, I took literally a 2.5 year break, and you know what? At the end of the day, I'm gonna come back to the game because I fucking love the game. There's always something to do. But yeah, for me, when I see the future of XI, like you said, it's still gonna go strong for sure. I just wish, and this is very wishful thinking, I just wish that they would come out with just a huge patch of shit to do. For example,
I would love
Empyrean upgrades.
I think maybe they will at some point make an expansion. They mentioned that they were open to it. I don't think it's gonna even be anything on the level of Rhapsodies. But what I'm hoping for is that they have like a $10 expansion pack or $15. Do you remember Abyssia, like when it came out, what it was like?
Mhm.
Very light on story, but high on content.
Right.
I think something on that level would be great for the game, and I think they could do that.
Now, would you be okay if they did something like, what was the 3 mini expansions that came out? Crystal.
I personally don't think it'd be a good thing because, okay, one, they probably actually require far more work than Abyssia for them because it's a lot of cutscenes, a lot of scripting, and a lot of things like that. And two, it's a lot less playability for us. Like we remember we knocked those out in a couple days and we're done with them forever.
That's true.
Like it's one piece of gear reward. Like I personally think they'd be better off designing things more like Abyssia, where it's light on story, but a lot of battle content for us. That it just changes things up.
Right. I mean,
it's more replayable.
I know a lot of people hated Abyssia when it came out. A lot of the hardcore, the H&M people quit during that era.
But to be fair, they quit because they turned the gear system on its head. They don't have to do that.
Right.
They quit because all these things I've been farming forever are suddenly obsolete. They don't have to do that to make this good.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I personally loved the fact that they did that. I know a lot of people didn't, but I was all for them raising the cap for them because I felt we had been stagnating too long. And like I talked about the effort reward ratio, it just was too low for too long. But they don't even have to turn things on their head that much. They just provide things that are side grades or sometimes upgrades or sometimes slightly better best in slot thing, and just provide a lot of new battle content. And I think that could go a long way. And they keep that gear level 119 if they want to not drive the standouts away. The ones who are like, I don't want to feel like all my shit went to waste, which I get.
I mean,
in my opinion, that's really why people left.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Abyssia came out, you know what I loved the most was the community. For the people that stayed, the community was so strong when we were finding out how the proc system worked and all that. Like that was really fun. And
yeah, I thought it was really cool. And while I wasn't a fan of the proc system itself, having some overarching systems to figure out was cool.
Absolutely. Right. And like when Walk of Echoes came out, we're like, wait, how are you supposed to do this? Like literally no idea. That's the best part of when new content comes out, right?
Yeah,
you just have no fucking idea what you're doing, and you gotta come together as a community and figure it out. And I hope something like that. I mean, I guess there's still stuff like that still exists in a very small portion.
Yeah.
Like Ambuscade, for example, when it changes every month. Yeah, if it's a repeat, some things might change. So, people are very
But
active on the auction house forums, and people make videos and stuff like that. But I wish
I'm
there was
all for
something.
interesting mechanics and gimmicks, but sometimes they just make things. Again, it's too debuffy, auto killy. You know what I mean?
I mean, so okay, so what would be your fix?
Okay, well, I'm trying to think of some examples where of ambuscade mods that I really liked. Oh, I remember the one that was quite good to me. Do you remember the mob that it needed different damage types? I liked that one.
I don't think I was around for that.
It basically it changed modes, and you had to change your, like, whether you were doing blunt, piercing, slashing damage, and it just got really tanky, and you couldn't really do much to it unless you changed it. Like, those are the kind of gimmicks I like, where it's like you have to react to it, you have to do something, or you're not going to get anywhere. But it doesn't just disable you from playing the game if you didn't stun or outrange or that kind of crap.
Right. That's actually, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like kind of like Warder of Temperance or Jailer of Temperance, where you had to
Right.
have blunt and piercing and slashing. Yeah, and I mean, and Master Trials, they do that for the Greatsword Master Trial, where you need a blunt damage,
And
piercing
obviously the
damage,
gimmick
and
can't
such.
be the same, but I just mean I'm in favor
Something
of
in
gimmicks
more of lines like that.
that make you do something, but don't just disable the crap out of you if you fail. Especially
Gotcha.
because sometimes the failing, like come on, honestly, some of the fights that we the only way that we find to do it is by like kiting with flea hack and things like that. You know what I mean? It's like, what was their intent on this? It's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. um, yeah. Oh
Or we
man.
auto die because two of the Buzzettos were too close to each other and one killed everybody.
Right. Jesus. Oh man, that month, I tried to multi-box and I just couldn't do it. That triple reverse would get me every time.
Or I remember the freaking frog month where if you for every buff you had on you, it dealt more damage with that hammer or whatever. Now it was
Ooh.
super duper easy if you kited it. It was awkward to like low buff kill it, but you could do it. And I think that was the intended way to do it, but it was so much easier to just outrange that stupid move.
Gotcha. I don't. No, I definitely didn't do that one. I heard the worst ambuscade was actually the Moogle one.
I didn't think it was the worst, but it was kind of rough, admittedly. It had some weird hate mechanics, and you could do it with rangers, and yeah.
Right. I mean, the the hate mechanics in general in ambuscade in general are pretty odd, because you can essentially, on a tank, you could just run in, literally not touch any of the mobs in Sentinel, and then you'll, or
It's just,
whatever.
it's just group hate, just like it. That's been around for ages. Certain mobs, for example, Fomors would have group hate and things like that, like
Hmm.
the parties of Fomor. Like, it's not actually new. People, it just always confuses people because they're not used to having hate on things before you do anything and things like that. But yeah, it's essentially the moment you aggro any of them, you're on all their aggro lists. Everybody on
Right. Um, what was your favorite, I guess, event in 11, in all of 11 history? Like, it could be instance, like salvage or legion or
Oh, it was
dynamis.
definitely Delph, Delph for sure.
Elf.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I complained about like stun or die, uh, I actually really liked that because at least there was recourse. You could stun the things, like, and that was all about like just learning which moves to stun or having like I remember we struggled with that so hard when it first came out because it was a nightmare before. See, this was before Gear God Eye levels. This was so
At
when Adelan
99
first came
cap.
out,
Yeah.
there was Adelan, but there was just no gear levels, no. So shit was just like Total wrecked the crap out of you, like, god damn. And I remember our group finally got Total down a bit, and then and it was so hard till we got. There were no reasons to have stun bots in Abyssia, so nobody's stun bots work.
Right,
So
right.
people had to figure out like, oh god, do we need to get stun bots working? And admittedly, yeah, we did. We got stun bots working, and then suddenly we could win because it shouldn't be necessary that we stun bot, but it's not
There
even
was
a
no
problem.
other. There was no other way. Like,
It's not even a problem that you needed to stun so much as that the moves came too fast. If they just made the windows a little longer, that way you wouldn't need stun bots. Humans could just stun and be good. That'd be fine. And I think that would have been helped. But I love Delve. I admittedly I enjoyed, like, I designed a good bot. We get to win. That's fun to me in some extent. And it was hard, and yet there was recourse. There was a way to get around these moves that wasn't retarded.
right.
So
My favorite was the shark one, dude.
yeah, we actually got the shark down right before. No, we actually got the shark down to, like, it was the bee. That was the hardest one.
Oh.
We got the shark down, and then we were fighting the bee, and we killed the bee literally once before they had the patch that added out eye level, and we were like, wait, we just got this down, and now they're all super easy. Well, okay.
Oh
yeah,
man.
we only killed the bee once before the change.
I remember. Oh man, I remember for the bee, we were like, all the samurais were like, okay, bust out the Amano and the Yoichi so we can fucking kill this.
Yep.
Oh man, Samurai was the fucking king for Delve, dude. Like,
Samurai was really good for sure. I don't know if I'd say the king, but it's really good.
I mean, I made Koga, and Koga was just disgusting back then during the Delve era. You could fucking do almost all of them, if I remember correctly. What I liked about Delve back then, you used a lot of different damage. It wasn't just one set of damage. You brought black mages in.
Here's another great example of gimmicks. The gimmicks in Delve were mostly great. Like, you remember how you had to use monks to balance between physical and magical damage on
Matamata, yeah.
Matamata, and the other one, the Crab Katoa, or no, not that. It's the Cracklaw one.
Yeah.
Yeah, though it does had that gimmick, and then there was also, I'm trying to remember what other what's the Taxit, where you had to, like, debuff him and he would remove the debuffs, and then he would get
Exuviation. Yeah.
Those are gimmicks. That's why I love
those
are
were
gimmicks.
that was pretty cool.
Or even in Delve 2, where, like, that bird did the nuke, the AoE, and it did damage.
You could only
back
damage.
to you,
You could only damage it.
Yeah, like, these are good gimmicks to me. Like, these are things that you can work around that don't disable your character. Like, yes, if you fuck them up, they'll kill you, but these are gimmicks I can get behind.
I mean, and it was what, 5 NMs and then the mega boss, or was it 4 NMs and then the mega boss? But regardless, there was always, each of those NMs had something, and it was unique too. It was different.
Kurma, how he would always dispel, but you could actually outrange the dispel. You could stun that move. Like these gimmicks were gimmicks that I could get behind. After the Delve days, I felt like gimmicks started getting, I don't know if I'd say lazier, but less interactive and therefore less fun.
So what did you think about what came after Delve anyway? Was it
Delve 2? Well, actually, I think there was probably something else in the meantime.
Was it
after Delve 2?
Was it Vagary or?
Yeah, Vagary. I also didn't. There were things that were good and things that were bad in Vagary to me.
Okay, so what are the good? What are the goods?
Okay, I loved, like, having to perform. You had to do skill chains and magic bursts in the right way to pop the Perfidian and Pluton. That was fine. That was cool. But before that, there was the first boss that we cleared. What was it? It was the Fulmore Zone, which had weird, terrible hate, and I kind of hated it. And it wasn't that it was weird. It was the spawn order, how they would spawn staggered, and so you'd have hate on some, but not on others, partially because of when they spawned. And then that boss doomed you, and I wasn't. God, the doom spam was annoying. It was manageable, but it was really fucking annoying. I wasn't a fan of that zone. I did like the slime zone, though everybody kind of hated it, and I hate how RNG it is.
Yeah,
But
that's the
I like the
worst.
zone itself. I wish it wasn't like random pylons and you get the boss or you don't. I wish it was just this many, like 3 waves and then the boss every time. Then
Right.
it'd be a great zone to me.
Right.
Like I like the mechanics in that zone. I didn't like the randomness. And what was the
It's
third zone? The third zone was elementals. I thought that was a great zone. I was a fan of all of it. Like how the end boss had like really nasty moves, but you could disable them by killing all of the elements of a certain type. That was great. Um,
that was pretty clever.
the yeah, like how the fairy was a little annoying, mostly in that it was just super duper tanky, but it was doable. Like that was a decent zone. But so yeah, they were good and bad in Delve. Overall, I mean not Delve, Vagary. Overall, I liked the content.
Okay, so now we know your favorite was Delve. Now, what's your least favorite, and out of all of Final Fantasy 11? Oh, I know my
all
answer.
content.
Yeah, I know my answer. I'll tell you mine. Okay.
Go ahead.
Dynamis. Worst fucking event ever, dude.
You mean the new Dynamis?
Just Dynamis in general. I hated first Dynamis. I hated Dynamis Divergence. I think it's the most mind-numbing thing. It's like, it's almost as bad as farming Glavoid. Let's put it that way.
It's pretty rough. If I'm looking for anything, I'm gonna say Garrison.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was terrible to me. Like, it was so awkward and unrewarding and like badly programmed. Like, I fucking hated Garrison.
Wait, what exactly was that the one where
like
mobs
some weird waves? Yeah, there were waves that you came to the like it was like level capped and there was no fucking there was no fucking point to it. The rewards were just trash. That was the worst.
I didn't even think about that. Jesus.
Now, I hated the original Dynamis, and I'm not a big fan of the current Dynamis, but I actually liked the one that was, the middle one, the job procs and stuff like that.
Job procs.
The current form of Dynamis that's not Dynamis Divergence.
Oh, okay. To get extra fucking currency.
I actually dig that one.
That was that was unique, for sure.
But it's mainly because you can just go in solo and farm casually, and it was chill. I was okay with that one. Although what I'm not a fan of is if you wanted to cleave it, you are locked in about 37 spell animations for about a year, and so you probably die even though they're doing 1 damage each. That's on spell lock, and I don't know why we still have spell lock in this game after 10 fucking years.
It's so aggravating. It's so aggravating.
I've asked the windower.
Go ahead.
Like there's J08. Everybody knows about it. Right. I asked the Windower team, but I have not gotten anybody who's willing to do it. If there was any way to separate like incoming spell lock and me using job abilities or things like, because I don't want to actually slip and slide around when I'm using job abilities or weapon skills. I do want to be locked in place, both because I don't want to get banned and also just because it is weirdly disconcerting when you're like sliding across the ground while you're using a weapon skill. It does feel awkward and cheaty. But I think it totally sucks when enemy moves lock you into place and you can't do shit.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was a J08 that only blocked the incoming.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool if there was a way to, I guess, figure that out.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've looked into it slightly, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue.
Gotcha. Another event that I fucking hate: Sinister Reign.
I like Sinister Reign.
I
hate the reward system, but I love Sinister Reign. The fights itself.
Yeah, the fights are fine. It's the reward system because it's 3 sets of RNG, right? Yeah. Your first set of RNG is the NMs that pop in each.
Well, not anymore. That's different now. You now pick your NMs.
The fucking update. Anyway, I'll get into the updated version, and then the second RNG is what items you're gonna get from that. And then the third RNG is the augments on it. Like, what in tarnation, dude?
No doubt, for sure.
Now they've updated it to where you could just fight the one NM over and over and over and over again. But I've heard like people were they've killed 100 of them, and then they've only gotten like maybe 15 boxes, and they didn't even get the right item. And I don't know if I don't know if this is true, but somebody said if you do get an item, it's max augments. I don't think it's true. I've never really done it, so I can't really confirm.
I haven't done the new one. I need to, but I haven't gotten around to it.
But if it is still RNG, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's still RNG on what item you get. And if it's not max augments when you get the augment, then it's another set of It's still gonna be 2 sets of RNG. And it's so frustrating. Like there are some good items. I mean, there are a lot of good items that come from it.
That said, you're a whole lot more likely to get capped item from there than anything close to good from Osim. Fuck Osim.
The mega boss Osim. Osim's actually the reason why I quit 2.5 years or 3 years ago. Because
you know what? Actually, you were asked my most hated content in the game, and that's fucking Osim. If you can call him content, he is the goddamn mega boss of XI, and he's the worst.
He's so, dude. He's so trash. He's eaten like over 1 billion souls from me, and it's really frustrating. And then the dark matter augments don't fucking help either.
He is the literal worst. We need to be able to lock augments, like, and then it'd be fine. I mean, it would be broken. Yes, we get brokenly powerful stuff, but so the fuck what? It is unhealthy as hell for the sanity of any player of this game.
Yeah. What do you think about the augmenting system? Do you think it was a good thing that they added it, or?
I think it was a terrible idea. The only augmenting system, it's hilarious. They started with skirmish. Well, I say started. They kind of brought augments back with skirmish, and skirmish augments were cancer, and then so they were like, what about in skirmish 2 if we make it to where each thing rolls only 1 stat? And that was fucking great. That was a light year forward. It's like, oh, so yeah, we can eventually hit what we want. It's gonna cost us some time, but this is reasonable. This is approachable. Like, it's still a time sink, but they can get behind this. And then they fucking went like, nope, let's double down on the original for no apparent reason, and let's go back to completely fucking random augs and way more things, so it can be, you're even way less likely to get the exact things you wanted. Like, fuck you, Square.
Yeah, you want me to ruin your life? Hold my beer, dude. I got it. Oh my goodness.
Like, augments in general, I think aren't like, okay, I should say I'm all for the Esh elixirs, air elixirs. That augment system was great.
Right, because it's static augments.
Right.
And it levels
Skirmish
up.
1 and Osim augments are fucking cancer. Skirmish 2 was okay. I'd still rather the Esh elixirs, air elixirs.
Right. Yeah, fuck Osim. He could burn in hell. Indeed. But I'll still talk to him later today. Probably.
Right.
Unfortunately.
I hate you. Give me my cocaine.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go into the next segment. We're gonna. I want to know your feelings about the private servers. What do you think about it?
I probably have a more nuanced opinion of them than I think most people do. It's just where they're bad, they're good. I think there are good and bad to do with private servers. Like, I don't begrudge private servers from existing. I really don't. And in a lot of cases, I think they are a good thing because they are bringing. But when I say a good thing, I mean for our XI, for us. I would never want to play them because I don't have that kind of nostalgia vision. I did not like those things that got changed in the current game. But some people really do. Like, much like the head of, like, the CEO of Blizzard said a few years ago, you think you want the old WoW, but you don't. Like, no, people know often what they want. Sometimes they don't, admittedly, but usually people fucking know what they want in terms of a game. So those people who really want the old experience, they really want the old experience. There's a reason progressive EverQuest servers are more popular than the present day EverQuest servers. Like, people want to chase that nostalgia. They want things to be like they were. And there are plenty of people who, if those servers shut down today, would not come to present XI. Like, saying if those private servers weren't around, RXI would make more money is not a clear and cut fact. Because think about, by that same argument, if they close 11 down, everybody just moved to 14. That's not the same thing. Everybody doesn't want the same thing. You all you chat motherfuckers, you wouldn't go to 14 for the most part. Like, It's a different game. And the old version of XI, and the private server is a different game to what it is now. It just is. Some people want it, some people don't. That said, Nasomi, for example, in specific, I have heard so many bad things. I don't want to get into exact statements, or personally, I'm not even 100% sure, but I've heard a lot of bad things specifically about Nasomi. I can't speak to the others. And it is sad that when there's someone who would have tried our game, the current day president, but they never give it a shot because the private server exists.
Mhm.
That is a little painful. And I don't like it's not even, I don't even have a problem with them streaming private servers on Twitch per se. What I have a problem with is Twitch having these rules and not enforcing them equally across everybody. Like, if they're gonna have a rule where you can't have private servers, don't allow Ninja to fucking do it, or say, okay, you can stream private. I have a problem with that inconsistency. But that said, it's different. I think there are good things about private. I'm all for the private server serving those people who really don't want to be playing this version because they really want their nostalgic XI that was punishing as shit and raped you in the ass every 2 minutes.
I mean, I don't enjoy that. I don't miss
either.
It. It's fun to reminisce about it for sure. You know what I mean? You created a lot of good friends. You had a lot of fun times.
I liked old XI because of the people, often in spite of the mechanics. I like the new XI for both.
Right. I mean, and also it's like we were a lot younger. We had no knowledge of the game. We had, what I mean? Pretty much we had no idea what the fuck we were doing half the time, but it was still fun. It was but at the same time you can't relive those experiences. I don't think it's possible.
I think some people can. It depends on how you're built. I don't think I could. I know I couldn't, but some people can. Some people can go play those old. Like, I've got a good friend who plays the crap out of a progressive EverQuest server and is reliving those experiences and is happy doing it. But that ain't me. Everybody's different though.
Okay. One more thing about the private servers. There's one server I thought I had a fucking great laugh on it. Pretty much, if you die, you go back to level 1.
I heard about that. I think it was you told me about that.
What do you think?
I think that's right in line with old school XI.
No, but you literally go to level 1.
No, I know. I'm making a joke about how bad it felt to die in the old school XI.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't understand. Like,
I don't get it.
Feeling about that, but I guess like if some people like it, go for it, man.
I mean, how can you do any content in that game?
There's no wrong way to have fun. Like,
no, yeah, I mean, if that floats your boat, then fine.
I don't understand why that appeals to people. I don't, but I understand that any freaking thing appeals to some people. Like, you can't say any form of having fun is wrong, and for the most part, you can't say any form of it's like. One thing I never will use is claim bots, for example. But I can't sit there and say that it's morally wrong. Like, hell, some people think it's morally wrong to use Windower, and not even with any add-ons, just because the way the game was made it was intended not to be able to minimize. You weren't supposed to be able to look all things on the internet. It was like,
you have to buy the Brady Games book, bro.
Right. I mean, some people actually believe that this wasn't meant to be, because that's not how games were back then. That's not what the designers intended. But I don't care about designers' intent. And as a matter of fact, sometimes in Final Fantasy's history they have, and sometimes they haven't. Like, for example, they didn't want ninjas to tank. And then when the community were like, hey, we're tanking with Ninja, the first they were like, no, you're not, and we're going to nerf this. And then they're like, no, we're still tanking with Ninja. Like, fine, have some tanking gear. Is this what you want? And I'm all for that. Like, it's I think it's more about how people have fun rather than, that's all that's important, is that you're having fun with the game. It doesn't matter how you do it.
Absolutely.
The only difference I will say is it's not cool to have fun at other people's expense.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, that was pretty funny. All right, last thing. What is your drive? Like, what continues your drive on Gear Swap, on the wonderful gear swap that you've done and your drive to just continually play 11?
There's a number of things. People is the main drive. Like, just like when people are like, "Oh my god, I love your gear swaps," or people
Mhm.
are just like the game itself helps because the combat system in Final Fantasy is my favorite after all these years. I love the fact that you can change gear for every specific action. I love the fact that it's at its heart some kind of weird turn-based game, but that we have like bastardized beyond recognition. Um, those are all interesting to me, but the main thing that keeps me coming back is yeah, the people going like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And I just like I get enthralled by sharing my perception of that puzzle, whether it be gear swap or in-game mechanics or whatever with other people.
Mhm.
So that's the heart of it. I just really enjoy like sharing a puzzle that we both like with someone else. It's not just XI, but it is probably the biggest single game in my life that has performed that like kind of function.
Gotcha. All right. Let's. Well, that's dope, man. That's super dope. And again, I thank you for all the gear swap stuff and you
I'm
know
just
and
happy to help and happy people. Honestly, whenever people say I don't like this or how do you do that, I enjoy it because a lot of the times it gives me like a direction to, oh, I can improve that this way, and it improves the experience for me as well as everybody else.
mm. And I am in the process of doing that video. I'm sorry it's taking so long, but there's just so much shit I have to put in and to
I
edit.
totally. There's a reason I never did it. I trust me. I understand. I
So
I I have commented a few times because there's so many times where I'm like, man, I'd love a video to show someone, but I don't want to do it. I'm not blaming you. I'm just like,
right. I mean, it'll be done soon. It'll be done soon. All right, we're gonna go into the Q&A. So chat, if you guys have any questions for Cell or for myself, or no, let's go questions for Cell. Post it in chat and we'll go on. You choose the first question. So by the way,
sure, sure.
I know the stream's a little bit delayed, so it's gonna take a
Yeah,
little
you
bit of
gotta
time.
wait for them to catch up.
Man, that video so far, it's it's so crazy.
But the
Because I
video
want to
for
for the gear swap.
yeah,
So the main thing is I want to get the installing part like pristine, so there's no hiccups. You know what I mean? So
right.
people could just get it installed. That's the main thing, and then you know the other little things here and there I can add on, but I'm just trying to
Yeah, that
get
makes
that
sense. Of course.
correctly on. We got a couple
Yeah, I
here.
see.
Choose, you can choose, or you can answer all of
Alta
them. That's fine.
Altana, my favorite mount is definitely Omega, just because he is big and unwieldy as hell and like draws attention, especially for newer players who aren't familiar or like, what the fuck is that you're writing? That's a great feeling. It's hilarious. I'm all about Omega. And am I on Ashura? Yes. Did I start on Ashura? No. I started on Unicorn, and then Fenrir ate Unicorn, and then at some point Fenrir is almost completely dead, and I started watching Twitch streams because I was like, man, I got nobody to play with. There's very few players that I know from Fenrir, and there's just so few. Like there, it was kind of a Japanese server, and it was so hard because the Japanese just completely ignore you these days. They didn't originally. Um, but then met a few streamers on Ashura, and I came to Ashura to hang out with people because there's so many people here, and there's a big strong streaming community here.
Right. Wait, when did you move to Azura?
Uh, I want to say, okay, so half my link shell got banned about, I guess is about 2.5-3 years ago, and so it was about 6 months after that. Because that's one of the things that really killed our old link shell is we lost a bunch of members to bans, and
Mm,
then kind of petered out, and that yeah. But eventually, I moved over here about 6 months or so after that,
gotcha.
around 2.5 years ago.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, we'll take a couple more questions. Shit, I was actually on Fenrir. I mean, it was very brief. I was in a H&M link show called Omen, and it was a black link show. I mean, this was fucking way back though. back in the H&M days. But yeah, I was on Finra at one point. What are some of the coolest things that your gear swap can do that most people miss?
Autodefense mode is probably the biggest thing that I think that most people don't use. Hell, I don't even use it all that often myself because I just manually do it. But it's a pretty big deal, and often people are shocked when they eventually do find it. It just changes your gear in response to enemy TP moves. So, if, for example, if it's about to cast Fire 5 on you, it switches in your MTT set, etc. That's probably the biggest thing that most people don't know about. That when even though they're using my gear swap. Other things, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot, and there's a lot that people miss, but that's probably the biggest one. And why my link shell got banned? Mostly because of botting. Like I told them, like, I've always been like very cautious about what I do in game. Like, I love third party stuff, but if I'm doing any sort of botting, I'm at the computer, because if a GM's like, "Are you there?" I want to be able to say, "Yes, I'm here." If like I have no moral qualms about it, I just don't want to get banned. But yeah, a lot of my link shell would bot JP for days on end, and I'm like, "You're gonna get banned. You're gonna," and sure enough, like half the link shell got freaking banned.
By the way, if you have gear swap questions for Selindrile, don't send him a tell in game about it. Talk to him on Discord.
You
I'll
can
post...
send me a tell in game that says, "Hey, what's your Discord?" or "Hey, can you talk to me on Discord?" Things like that. But yeah, don't say anything third party in game, please. It drives me batshit.
I know I've done that a couple times to you, and you got so mad. But yeah, I'll post his Discord in link. And for the people that haven't used his gear swap, you definitely want to check it out. It's definitely worth the swap over. It is gonna take a lot of time, but it's definitely worth it. It's unbelievable how much of a difference it is when you go from a basic gear swap to his. It is a lot more work to get started, but I recommend it. It has my seal of approval.
I've tried to make it as approachable as I can while still making it complex as I want it to be, but it's a hard line to walk sometimes.
Gotcha.
Oh God, Farrak, I hate you.
This is gonna be the last question, by the way.
That is a complicated question, and I'm still not sure how I feel about V5. Like, from what all I've heard, it is going to be a colossal amount of work for me if I wanted to make everything work the way it does in V4 and V5. I don't know if I'm going to do it. Like, I can appreciate the motivations behind why Window or Team went to V5, but I really wish they would have made it just a port in some way, something that would have made it more approachable to move over, because Jesus Christ, like the mountains of work that would be required, it seems like I'm not sure if it'll be worth it to me. We'll see.
So okay, what if you had, I guess, like a team member to help you kind of port it? Would that be a possibility?
We'll have to see what it's going to be like, but yeah, I absolutely wouldn't necessarily mind help, depending on what it will be like. I mean, we'll have to see what Gear Swap looks like in its new incarnation,
Right.
and I'll have to learn the ins and outs of Window 5. Like, I'm not even super, like, I'm better than your average bear at coding, but I'm not like one of I'm certainly not of the quality of anybody on the Window team. You know what I mean? Like, so be a big learning process for me. Whoever chooses to help and etc. Like, whew, we'll see how it goes down.
Gotcha. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of it. Is there anything that you wanted to say to everybody?
No, just I hope if you like my gear swaps, I feel free to shoot me a message. I always appreciate hearing from people who do. If you got any ideas, send them my way. I'm happy that it's been as well received as it has been, and thanks for the invite on the podcast. It's been fun.
Yeah, man, I had a great time. Super cool information. I had a great time as well. Thank you for joining me on episode 2 of Vana Talk. was really fun, dude. Pleasure having you here. And yeah, I'll be posting Selindrile's link to Gear Swap, and I'll be posting his Discord. And yeah, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be the end of the podcast. So thank you again, Sal.
Happy to be here.
All right. Now we're gonna take a little break, and we're gonna get into some action. We're gonna